Okay, and finally we come to the last deck, and oh my god, how crazy does this deck look? Okay, so this one does need a little bit of explaining, okay? So, basically, the first thing to note that's interesting about this deck is that it's 60 cards, okay? It's a lot of cards in relation to the other decks. The other decks are bang on 50. This deck has got 10 extra cards. Now, this isn't that much of a problem, okay, because of our card draw. Now, the idea is to send the card draw this way. So the Berevor target is this deck, okay, for the most part. So you want to get Berevor into this, or you want to get the card draw into this, okay, to draw through these extra 10 cards as quickly as possible. And there's a few things we've got here. Obviously, we have Theodred, and we have Dane, and we have Bilbo. We don't need to go through that. We have the Gandalf, and we have the Sneak Attack Gandalf combo, which is so ridiculous. Okay, we have... I'll do them last. We have the Miner of the Iron Hills. Now, Miner of the Iron Hills are an interesting card. This is a card that people are often tempted just to whack down. I mean, he has attack, he has defense, he's got some health. But really, you don't want to cast this card unless you have another one in your hand. The whole point of Miner is to get rid of condition attachments, so know your encounter deck. There's a lot of encounter decks that don't have condition attachments they have to worry about, in which case, just play him, or even sideboard him out. But if you've got a deck, if you're running, say, like Into the Pit is from Khazad-dûm, that's got like Watchful Eyes, Condition Attachment. Caught in the Web, I think, is in Shadow of Mirkwood. If it's got those cards in it, then don't cast this card. I mean, that is a pilot. That's how to pilot a deck. Okay, just because you have a card doesn't mean you want to put it on the table. Board presence isn't the same as important as it is in, like, say, things like Call of Cthulhu or Magic the Gathering, okay? Don't cast this card unless you have to. He's designed for a reason. Treat him like an event, okay? You want to cast him to remove this effect. I mean, obviously, if the situation's there, you absolutely have to cast him. You really need an extra body for a blocker or whatever. Obviously, cast him. I'm just saying... You don't want to be in a situation where you've cast your Miner and then the next turn out comes a condition attachment. Okay, that's just ridiculous, and it's not the point of how the deck's designed. Next, we have the Daughter. I mean, there's not really much to explain here. Very, very powerful card, and extremely useful. Next, we have Shadowborn Scout. The perfect chump blocker. Costs 1, chumps, and dies. It's a pretty rough job. Powers up Horn of Gondor. Now we have quite an expensive card with Gildor. Now, this is a card which you will probably never play. Okay? Oh, why is it in there? Well, there's also Bork. Another card. You will probably never play this card. Okay? Because one of the real things that this deck is doing is powering with Lorien. It's got extra cards, it's got 10 extra cards, and there are cards in here that are good cards. There's another one. Good cards, but you might never ever play them because they're expensive. Okay? So they're targets for Protector of Lorien. I mean, there are situations where you will want to play these. I mean, sneak attacking Longbird Orcslayer is actually a powerful effect in itself. But what I'm saying is, you might don't look at this card and think, hey, this costs 5 and we've only got one resource token here. That's going to be terrible. It's actually not really designed to be cast. I mean, if you can cast him, by all means do it. But he's not really where you're aiming to cast. You're not aiming to cast that guy. He's not integral to the deck design. He's just a really awesome card that is also able to be discarded. Faramir. Now, Faramir, I believe that he is definitely worth casting. Extremely powerful effect, often overlooked. basically you tap him, and whoever's got the most committed people, you just tap him at that, and it adds extra 1 for every single character committed to the phase. And that does work with golem checks and stuff. Now you might notice, well, there's only 1 of him. How are we going to draw him? Well, again, the card draw. You're basically going to have this entire deck is going to be in the guy's hand. Okay? So it doesn't matter that he's only got 1. So Protector of Lorien. And there, again, we've got Protector of Lorien targets. A target is... the target is Theodred, and the other target is... Theodred, and the other target is from the other deck, and that would be, if I can remember the other deck, Thalen. Okay? Now the reason those guys are targeted is because you want to use them to control questing. Then you have a third one which you can then place anywhere, mainly used for defense. But the reason Thalen's a good one is because there's a few unique cards in that deck that will be dead in your hand. Okay, we'll do this guy last, and then we've got the warnings. Again, the priority target is Frodo, because we want to get his defense up as high as possible so he can just like use his fast hitches and just block. And to aid that, of course, we have Sentinel, so he can block anywhere on the board. A powered up Frodo with some fast hitches can basically block everything. Every single monster on the board it can block. You know, you've got 3 monsters on the board, tap, 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 it can block all of them. And anything goes wrong, you get like, or you can just eat it as threat. And that's the way it's designed to work. Okay, and range. This is a target for Gimli. Okay, and you note there's 2 of these, but we only have 1 target really. So again, that's 2 more to power Protector. Celebran Stone, again, Thalen or Theodred. They're the questers. And again, there's 2 of them, so 1 of them powers Protector. And then we have the songs. Now, we'll just do this one first. Self-preservation. Funky kind of card, it's good. Stick it on Frodo is the target for this card, but again, you're most likely going to use this to power Protector. That's why there's only 1. Now, the songs are quite important, so I might do them last. Okay, then we have the archers. Again, ranged attack, attack anywhere on the board. And then we have Haldir, and, again, this is a card kind of like Gildor. You might never cast this. If you can afford to cast it, fine, cast it. But there's usually better options for you to cast. This card is designed for if we can cast it, we will. Otherwise, it's to power the Lorien, Protector of Lorien. Now, we have Embor Hammersmith, and same rules as with Mine of the Iron Hills. Now, the Embor Hammersmith is in fact a better guy than the Miner. Okay, he quests for 2. He only defends at 1. Well, I guess the Miner only defends at 1, doesn't he? Yeah, so he only defends at 1, but he has 3 health. So he's actually a better body than the Miner, but his effect is not even close to as good. Those conditioned attachments are terrible. That's why there's 3 of them and only 2 of this guy. But they're still very good, and of course, Dane makes those cards immeasurably better. Finally, we have Hemmermarth. Why is Hemmermarth in here, you might say? Because, I mean, when you're playing a solo game, Hemmermarth is like, a game-winning bomb. But in a 3-player game, knowing 1 out of 3 cards getting revealed each turn isn't really that great. But if you actually look at what he is, he's a 1-cost ally that has 1 questing power, 1 attack. That's not bad. So you can usually just, in this deck he's designed to be just used as a 1-drop extra will. So think of him like, I don't know, like a cheap version of Celebrin Stone. That's pretty much what he's for in this thing, just adding 1 will to your questing, which of course helps with Faramir because it's an extra body, so Faramir's ability counts. So even though his other ability isn't that good, he's still a 1/1/1 creature, you know, pretty damn good. Finally, we have the events, and we've got Campfire Tales. Now, this is a card which gets better the more players you have. Each player draws a card. It costs 1. Okay, so you click that, 3 people draw a card. Can't get much better than that. It's not bad. Sneak Attack. We all know Sneak Attack. Now, the Law of Elandris can heal damage of any character. Remember, this is to do the whole of Mirkwood cycle. This card is vital, 100% needed for the third quest in the Mirkwood cycle, which is Return to Raskabel, where you have to heal that eagle. You can't win that game without this card. So even that, I mean, this deck setup is pretty much owns that scenario. We played the whole Mirkwood cycle. We didn't lose a game once. We came close to losing one, and I'll get to that in a sec. But card draw, make sure these are in your hand, and you should be fine for that scenario. Now, this card is actually a favorite of mine that a lot of people seem to completely ignore. I mean, a lot of people don't like this card, but it is actually an extremely good card. Okay? What this card does, it basically just allows you to remove a staging area's locations threat. You know, and it's only a band-aid solution, but the amount of times this has saved our butts is just, you know, you can't count. This is the kind of card that you don't cast a lot, which is why it's in the Protector of Lorien deck, so you can discard it. But when you do cast it, it'll save the game. Okay, there's a lot of really scary locations. There's the Brown Lands, it's like +5. In Khazad-dûm, there's the Zignal Mineshaft. You know, there's a lot of really bad locations, high threat locations that, you know, if you pull 2 of them, like you've pulled 2 brown lands out of your deck, then bang, that's 10 threat on the board with just 2 cards. I mean, that's really hard to recover from, even with things like Protector on the board. And this just allows you to completely get past them. You know what I mean? And move them into the travelled location or other effects to get rid of them. And finally, we have Dawn Take You. This is another one to remove shadow effects. And I like this one because it allows you to adjust everybody as well. You know, we do have so we've got quite a lot of shadow card control in this deck. We've got these 2 cards, we have the 2 Hasty Strokes, and we've got the Burning Brand, and that's plenty. Again, this is a card you might not cast, but when you do, it's going to be very, very useful. But it's situational, which is why, again, it is in this discard deck, basically. This is a draw discard deck to power Lorien. Okay, and finally, we have Mapmaker. Now, Mapmaker is the questing god, and because of Mapmaker, Steward of Gondor is the target. This deck is the target for Steward of Gondor. So you want to put Steward of Gondor on a law resource or on a hang on, if I type in, I did the wrong thing. So you put Steward of Gondor on a law resource, okay? And that'll allow you to power Mapmaker. And it'll also allow you to get out more expensive cards, like, say, the Songs, or Gildor, or Haldir. So you want Bilbo, and then with these Songs, you then have the Spirit, which you cast on the Gimli deck, and you have the Law, which you're casting on the Gimli deck to allow Burning Brand, and so forth. Okay? Oops, I've made a mistake I've made a mistake. So embarrassing. I've actually made a mistake when I built this deck to show you guys. Yeah, because we play with the real cards. So I built this deck. One of these is... Oh, hang on, I'll just pause it. Okay. So basically you have the 3 songs. You have the Wisdom Song, which is targeting onto... which targets Frodo. Okay. You have the Battle Song, which is targeting onto Frodo as well. Okay. And you fetch them. There's only one copy. Doesn't matter how hard they are to find, because you're most likely going to fetch them with the Minstrel. Okay. So Frodo gets both the battle and the resource, and that allows you to cast Burning Brand, and it allows you to cast Support of the Eagles. And the Spirit one is getting cast upon Gimli, or the Gimli deck as well, so you can cast the Northern Trackers easier. Okay, and that is pretty much the way those extra icons go. Now there's a lot of fiddling you can do here. Okay, if you are feeling that the mana restrictions are a little harsh, I would recommend removing, say, these 2 cards and putting in some more songs. Okay, because with all the card draw, you're most likely going to draw them, and that allows you to be a little bit more free. If you find that you're holding expensive cards, then this is a good way to get them out. Change these 2 guys for more songs. Okay. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the 3 decks. Okay, so they all work completely combined and together. So that's this deck. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to set up the board in the last video as an example of where you should be aiming, the kind of, mid to end game way the board should look.